Hi everyone, Trishna here. I hope you're doing well and having a good Sunday. I hope that wherever you are staying warm, especially if you are in the southern portion of the United States. I know for me, this past week with the Texas winter storm, or just the winter storm in general, it has been pretty rough, actually, very eventful. First 2.5 days, we didn't have power, very limited heat. We didn't have Wi-Fi, very limited data. So it was actually really miserable. We do have heat and Wi-Fi and everything back on. Obviously, I'm streaming this video, but there's a lot of people in Texas still struggling who don't have power, heat, who don't have food, who don't have water, no Wi-Fi, no data. So there's a lot of people really struggling right now. And on top of that, we had a lot of political drama with regards to the Texas winter storm, with essentially our governor, I believe, blaming this whole situation on like green energy and the windmills and wind turbines not really working. But of course, if you live in Norway or Sweden or Canada or Minnesota or Michigan or anywhere in the north where you deal with cold storms every single year, you know that that is not really a valid excuse. And of course, we had our senator who left in the midst of all this to take his family to go to Cancun, left his constituents behind who are in pain and struggling. We have a mayor who said that, hey, you guys need to get over it. It's not my job to fix it. You're on your own, even though his constituents are paying for part of his salary with their tax dollars. So then we had AOC getting blamed for the Green New Deal, which isn't even implemented yet. So we had a lot of things going on a personal level, but then on top of that, on the political landscape, there was a lot of drama there as well. And so there's a lot of shadows here and a lot of healing that needs to be done. And so what I want to do with this video is I want us to take this moment to do some healing, do some shadow work together, that when we do it on our individual level in relation to this greater, more societal event and issue, when we do that together, it's really going to heal the collective. Because as you guys know, if you've seen my other videos, when we heal ourselves, we actually heal the collective on some level as well. Because as within, so without. We are all one and all is, yeah, we are all one and one is all. So whatever we do internally is going to be reflected in our external experience and the external experience of others. So that's why I want to take this time to really focus on the shadows, the lessons, the realizations that we can take away from this Texas storm event, do the healing work together on an internal level, and then allow that to really transform our experience going forward so that we hopefully don't have a situation like this again, and that we can heal other aspects of our society as well in the meantime. So in order to do this, we're going to be combining a lot of different really fun techniques. So we're going to be doing shadow work, we're going to be doing healing, we're going to be doing journaling. We're going to also involve tarot or candle flame divination or tea leaf reading. So I don't have tea leaves in here, but I've got some tea to keep me warm. And so you can use any kind of divination method that you want. We're going to be pulling advice that we can use and work with going forward, or see as one sentence kind of themes that we can carry with us to really improve our lives and improve the lives of others. So we're going to be doing a lot of really fun things together in this video. I'm going to be looking at my notes a lot throughout this video because I have a lot to share on this. There's a lot of different things we're going to be looking at from a shadow transformative perspective. And yeah, it's going to be really fun. And this really relates to Trishna's Temple of Transformation, because what I really want this group to be about is seeing things on all levels, as above, so below, as within, so without. So again, whenever there are things going on in the collective, usually it's reflected somewhere within us. And when there are things going on within us, usually it's reflected somewhere in the collective. And when we heal either one, we heal everything. And we really make that transformation and we really grow as human beings. I'd say as spiritual beings, we can grow as spiritual beings as well, but ultimately we are all spiritual. We're just having a human experience and we're learning how to be more human. So anyways, getting into a little bit more about this topic. So when I was first tuning into this topic, I was wanting to pick up on what my intention should be for this Texas winter storm healing and tarot session, journal session, shadow work session. And I was guided to focus on, I guess, three elements. So that is being deep, keeping it short, and being impactful. So I'm not going to be able to keep the second one. I'm going to be able to keep things deep, probably not going to be short, but it is going to be impactful. And I think that you're really going to enjoy the kind of transformation that you get as you go through this video and maybe even do some of these exercises for yourself. And when I was thinking about those three things, I realized that it really relates to the storm in a lot of different ways. The storm was deep. I mean, we had more snow than we've had in like 30 years, maybe even longer. The cold really sunk into the house. A lot of Texas homes, a lot of Texas apartments are not really insulated for the cold, like cold weather. So the cold, when it came in, oh man, did it come in and it came in deep. And you know that feeling when you feel really cold and it goes deep into your bones and it's hard to shake off. So the storm is very, very deep, I would say. Short, it's a toss-up. It really depends on your experience and how you look at it. For some people, it has not been a short experience, so I'm not really sure about that one. But impactful. I feel like this has been a very impactful experience. I feel like I personally have come to some lessons and realizations. And I think collectively also we've come to some lessons and some realizations. So before we even get into the shadow work healing, just looking at the storm overall, just at that high level, lessons. I think we've all learned to be more prepared as individuals. We shouldn't have needed to be prepared for this storm. That's not a fault really of ours. It's really a fault of how it was handled. But I think we've learned that, hey, you know what? Maybe we do need to be more prepared. And a realization could be that, you know what, those preppers that we sometimes make fun of, maybe they weren't like 100% off. Maybe they're on to something a little bit. So that's kind of an interesting realization that I had. And going a little bit deeper into more realizations, like on a personal level for me, is I'm the kind of person that tends to live more on bare essentials. So I've talked about this a little bit in some of my other videos, but when it comes to the psychic realm, the spiritual realm, I don't really work too much with tarot. I don't really work with astrology. I don't really work with oracle cards. I have some of those in my videos, and that's because the audience really seems to enjoy that and it's more visual, a little bit more interesting to look at when you're watching a video on YouTube. But in terms of my own personal practice, I do use them from time to time, but I prefer to work with the bare essentials. I prefer to work primarily with myself. The reason for that being that I am afraid of getting too spoiled by tools to where what if all those tools are suddenly gone and then I don't know how to really work with intuition or energy or my psychic abilities without those tools and I'm at a loss. I also do this in other areas of my life though. Like I don't work out in a gym. I work out at home using dumbbells, equipment that essentially is very minimalistic. I also have a lot of body weight workouts in case the equipment is suddenly gone. But I build my life, even my workouts, everything about my life to the bare essentials where if I can't go to a gym anymore, if I can't get equipment anymore, what am I going to do? How am I still going to stay healthy and fit? So even in workouts, that's what I do. And of course, it paid off during quarantine because my workout schedule hasn't changed at all because I never go to gyms and I have dumbbells, equipment that I can use here, and then I have body weight if I ever need to travel. So, it helps out. But essentially, this made me realize just how much I live with the bare essentials in my life, but also how much I don't. How I, or well, how I live with heat and I live with electricity and I live with internet. Those are still bare essentials. They should be bare essentials at this point in time. But all of that was gone in an instant. Unexpectedly, it was gone for 2.5 days. And what I learned from that, what I realized from that is that, you know what, when I was completely stripped of anything that wasn't truly bare essentials, I was still able to live. I was still able to reflect on things and, connect to the storm on intuitive levels and have these thoughts that I'm going to be sharing with you for the shadow work and, still able to entertain myself and things like that and still able to find ways to stay warm and to feed myself and things like that. And of course, I live with others and they all help me as well. So I realized that it is okay to be spoiled because if everything was stripped away from me, I would still be okay. Maybe I don't need to live so completely on the bare essentials. So, as if you have been in this storm personally, maybe think about what realizations and lessons you have come to just in your own experience. It's was terrible, but this is the kind of stuff that I was thinking about. I was like, oh, everything's in the stripped away, but I guess I'm okay. So just think about that. And we're going to be going through more things to think about for everybody, not just those who've been in the storm, and how we can all relate to this in our personal lives, again, as within, so without, because we're all connected. And even though our experiences may be so different, we're all bringing that about in the collective because we all have something that connects us internally that we can work on with regards to this. So, all right. I think I covered all of that. Okay, So as I go through these different prompts, or you can use it as a question to ask your tarot deck, or you can use it as a question to ask your candle flame and see how it flickers and you can read the candle flame intuitively, or if you have a book on how to read candle flame divination, or you can ask this question and see how the wax starts to pull in any kind of shapes that show up. So, or I don't know if I already mentioned tea, but if you have tea leaves, you can look at the tea leaves and read that for each one of these questions. As we go through these prompts and these questions, they may all apply to one area of your life, or each question may apply to different areas of your life. So be fluid and see how you relate to the questions and how they kind of give you some food for thought. Again, it could be all love for some people, or it could be love for one question, career for another question. It's all about how this works really for you. What we're going to be doing is I'm going to be talking about elements of the winter storm. I'm going to talk about the shadows that those elements bring for us to address. Then you can, as I ask the questions, you can pause the video or you can do this later. You can tune into what answers are you getting? How does this apply to you? What thoughts come to mind? What feelings come to mind? Or pull a tarot card or read your tea leaves or look at a candle flame, whatever form you want to use to get answers to these questions for you to help bring up some deeper truths that you can heal and work on and grow with. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some examples ways that this may apply to you, so you can kind of jog your thoughts and give you some ideas and help you reflect, because I like it whenever I see that in videos. I will also talk about what came up for me when I did this. So I've already been through these questions, I've already tuned into the energy and picked up how this related to me in my life, and I'll share that with you for more examples. I also picked up on society and what's coming up when we ask those questions on the collective level, so if you're curious about that. And then I also pulled one line of advice. So as you read your tarot cards or tune into how these questions get answered for you, what they bring up for you, you can come up with your own one sentence line for advice. Or if you want to use these, I have 5 pieces of advice because there's going to be 5 main questions that we ask. And you can use those to guide you as you move forward or to be themes that you focus on for the day or for the next few weeks, for as long as you really need. And yeah, okay, so we're going to be talking about 5 topics. So it's going to be 5 pieces of advice. Now, this video I think is going to be long because I'm going to be talking about 5 things and we're going to be going through each one of these steps. Please let me know if this is a video that you enjoyed or this is kind of a realm that you like to explore, like journaling, shadow work, tarot, deeper truths, anything like that. If this is something that really resonates with you and that you would like to see more of, then please let me know if you want me to include personal examples, like I'm going to be doing, and societal examples. If you don't want that, that's okay. Just let me know, because those parts are going to make this video much longer, and if it's not really of interest to you, then that's fine. I can just leave it out. And if it is of interest to you, if it helps you, if it helps you feel not alone because I'm sharing some of my shadows, or if it helps give you ideas of shadows that maybe you have that you hadn't thought of, then I will include it. And if I get mixed reviews, then what I'll do is I'll include it and I'll just put timestamps so those who aren't interested in that can just skip over those parts. And hopefully you guys will tell me what you like or get far enough in this video to know that I'm asking this question. But if I don't really get a response, I'll probably just go with what I'm feeling that day. So anyways, let me know. Okay, so the other thing is I have not really been editing my videos for a while. So I'm not really going to have the questions written up on the screen. So what I'm going to do to make this easier for you is I'm going to write the questions in the description box, or if this is on Facebook, I'll write it in the comments. So you can just look at it and then go do this on your own, either during the video or after the video, and you'll have the questions there that you can reflect on. Okay, so let's get started. All right. Okay, so the first one. As we discussed, there's a lot of people who didn't have food in their pantry. So when everything frosted over, when they lost power, they lost heat, they weren't able to order takeout or something like that. They didn't really have much to eat except for maybe condiments. And then they weren't really able to go to the grocery store. Maybe they needed gas and gas prices went up. Maybe not maybe, most of the grocery stores, a lot of things were closed. So they weren't able to find food. So, along those lines, where do you only give yourself the bare essentials? Or where do you not give yourself even that much? So that's a question that you want to ask yourself or that you want to pull a tarot card for. So where do you only give yourself the bare essentials? Or where do you not give yourself even that much? So some examples. The first one is around the self, around self-love. Do you maybe not even give yourself the bare essential of allowing your feelings to be heard by other people, of sharing how you feel, expressing something that may be bothering you in any kind of relationship, romantic, friendship, family? Do you not even give yourself that much because you don't you give yourself the bare essential or even less when it comes to self-love? Another example, so love, like romantic relationship. Are you maybe accepting crumbs of love from others? Are you maybe accepting a relationship where your partner doesn't really keep in touch with you or doesn't really seem to care about your well-being or seems to only want to spend time with you when it's on their terms or their timeline or when it's convenient for them? Is a relationship that you're in very one-sided, and so you're only allowing yourself to have the bare essentials, the one text here and there, or the one hi here and there, the crumbs. So I will give you an example for myself that I was reflecting on. So if you see the background, I've got like all this beautiful like shimmery stuff. So that is because yesterday I had a bridal shower, but I wasn't planning on having a bridal shower or a bachelorette party. And I started to realize why. Okay, so I wasn't gonna have that, but one of my friends who sometimes comments on these videos, her name is Alicia, what's the word? She convinced me that I should have one. And I'm actually really excited that I have one because I do want to enjoy like every part of my wedding, and a bridal shower and bachelorette party are all like the fun things leading up to a wedding. So I really wanted to enjoy that experience, but I didn't let myself until she convinced me. And I didn't really realize why until a little bit later as we were planning it. The reason why is because I guess it's because I have a December birthday. I have a birthday December 28th, so it's right after Christmas. So when I was growing up, there were a lot of like all of my friends. First of all, I wasn't super social, but all of my friends, they basically were spending time with family or maybe they were traveling during the holidays. So I never had anybody come to my parties if I invited other people. So eventually I just got really accustomed to not inviting people to my birthday. It's very rare that I do that. If I do that, and just keeping it very family oriented or like, yeah, essentially very family oriented or very family friend oriented. And that's how I've done that because I just expect that nobody's going to show up. So when it came to my wedding, I was focusing on the bare essentials. I was like, okay, the only thing that like truly matters is the wedding, is getting married. The parties and the fun and the gifts and all of that, none of that matters. I'm going to skip it. Nobody's going to show up anyways. So that's how that really related to me. But now, thanks to my friend Alicia, I had a wonderful bridal party that she planned and it was awesome. Like, thank you so much. And we're going to be doing our bachelorette party on Saturday, and I'm super excited. And yeah, so that's how that relates to me on a societal level. Okay, where do we accept the crumbs? Where do we allow others to accept crumbs? Where do we give them the bare essentials, if even that? So the way that I see that in society, or that I was picking up on, is minimum wage. The minimum wage has not increased, even though inflation has happened and pricing of everything else has increased. And yet that hasn't. So we're essentially saying that it's acceptable that we only give crumbs, if even crumbs, to members of our country, our family. We don't have a universal base income, and there are, I think, other countries that do that, and it would be very feasible in our country. We don't do that. I feel like that is something that crumbs, bare essentials, that even that we're not allowing ourselves to have. There's a lot of people with outrageous student loan debt that we're not really getting rid of, that's happening. And someone was telling me the other day that the income to housing pricing ratio is very different, or like higher now. I mean, the pricing to income ratio is higher now than it used to be like generations ago. So people are making less while housing prices are getting higher, and so it's harder to afford a home that's big enough or nice enough that, generations ago we would have been able to afford. So it kind of goes with the minimum wage, but I see it as two separate because, I mean, minimum wage, I mean, Like, what are we doing, guys? So the advice, you only get what you ask for. So this is something that I have definitely learned at work. If you don't ask for a raise or a promotion, or when you're negotiating a salary, if you don't even ask, nobody's just going to hand it to you because people don't care. So you only get what you ask for. People may say no, but unless you ask, you never get the chance of getting a yes or a no. So people are asking for better now. We're asking for more than crumbs now. The advice is keep it up. You only get what you ask for. Okay, so number two. Again, many people don't have food in their pantry. This is along the same lines. So the question is, where are you not being forward thinking enough? Where are you not thinking about your needs long term? Where could you use more planning in your life? That's all kind of one, all about long term planning. Are you really thinking, are you planning? And are you really thinking about what you need long term? Or are you really focusing on what you think you need right now and kind of pushing the long term to the side, thinking that that's not so important, I need to focus on here and now. So an example for love. Maybe you want a particular person right now, but are they really somebody that you would want long term? Have you really thought about the qualities that this person has, if there's a specific person that you want, and whether the qualities that they have are actually what you would want to have long term, every day, in and out? And are the qualities that they have right now actually sustainable for something that could be long term? So with that, it could be like maybe they don't have qualities. Maybe they have certain qualities that might not be long term, but maybe they're also really invested in their own personal growth. And so maybe then that makes sense. So evaluate their qualities, pros and cons. Are they actually what you need long term? One more specific example about that is maybe you want kids. When you look at your partner, are they somebody that would be a good, not only partner, but also parent? Or somebody who could be that? Because if you want kids long term and they don't fit the long term box of good partner and parent, then you're investing in something for now, but not for long term. So that's that. Career. Are you maybe staying in a job right now that isn't really building your career long term? Now, of course, we're in very different times right now, COVID times. So, you got to get a little bit more thought around that. But there are a lot of people making career changes right now, still changing jobs like all the time. I have people at my company who are joining all the time, people who are leaving as well. So people are making moves. So ask yourself, are you staying in your job and is it really growing you, or is it maybe keeping you stagnant and isn't really where you want to be long term, or isn't building you and putting you on a path where you can be where you want to be long term? So for me on a personal level, and again, let me know if I should cut this kind of stuff out, the personal stuff. I'll try to keep it short. So on a personal level, me and my fiance, I feel like for us, we could do more long-term planning for our house. Yeah, for our house primarily. So this past year, we really kind of went about it on the seat of our pants, just kind of like, oh, we need that, oh, we need that, oh, we need that. As we need it, we kind of went after it. And that kind of created a situation where financially it's like, we didn't really save as much as we wanted to. So after the wedding, because right now it's like intense timing, but after the wedding, I think that's something that we'll talk about again and really plan long term. Okay, so what do we want to do with the house? What are some projects that we want around here that would make us happy? What kinds of trips do we want to take going forward for the year? Maybe what kinds of plans that we want to have. So really thinking on a year-long plan and setting some goals together that we're on the same page with, so that whenever we are doing financial things, we can plan along those goals and like, okay, does this meet one of our priorities? Should we really be investing in this, or does it take away from our goals? So that's something that I think that we could really do together. So that's where I'm saying that we could really plan things, and not focus so much on what we need now, but like also what we need going forward. Me personally, I used to be somebody who was really about the 5-year, 10-year plan, especially early on in my more professional career, like after college career. And I very soon learned that the 5-year and 10-year planning didn't work for me because even though I had the best of intentions and did really good work, I was in a very toxic work situation where politics was just like a lot of backstabbing, a lot of taking credit for things, like a lot of things that didn't align with my values. And so even though I stuck to my values, it just left me behind. So I essentially had all these goals for where I wanted to be in this company, and it just wasn't a good match. and I ended up having to move to a different company. And eventually I found some really good companies to work for, current one and the one before this one were both really great. But I threw away the 5 to 10 year plan because it just stopped making sense because I felt like there was no control that I had. You just kind of have to go with what's going on. But now I'm in a lot more of a stable place. So I think now might be a good time for me to introduce my 5 and 10 year plans. I think that I would be a lot more successful with my goals and a lot more focused on my goals. And I think that that would be really helpful, like with my business goals, because I don't really do that long term. I do kind of do things on a very intuitive level, and I like that, but I think planning could really help me out in some ways, keep me really focused. On a societal level, climate change, that's something that we're not really thinking about long term. Some people are thinking about it, but a lot of people really aren't on the same page yet. And that's going to bite us in the butt eventually. And if not us, it's going to bite future generations in the butt, and it'll be because of us. And if the Texas storm, like, come on, guys. It does snow in Texas every once in a while, but like the last time we got down to zero was, I think, 30 to 31 years ago. So it happens, but it's rare, and yeah. All right, so there's that. And then sustainability on Earth. So I'm all for space travel. Like, I mean, I'm all for it. I think it's great, but I think we also need to make sure that we continue to focus on being sustainable with what we have here on Earth as well, because we have a lot of problems here that we need to fix. And if we don't fix them here, and then we end up going to other planets and living there, we're just going to bring the same problems, the same shadows there as well. So we have a lot of things that I think we need to do from a sustainability perspective, or that society needs to do from a sustainability perspective here as well, like in conjunction with the space travel. But that needs to be done as well. Like it's very, very important. And then I know there's also a lot of issues with retirement and Social Security and where that's going to go, and pushing retirement age longer and longer because we're not planning our budget. Government is not planning the budget and using it correctly long term, right? It's just based off of what we need right now. Okay, so the advice here is, oh wait, yeah. Life goes a lot smoother for everyone when you plan and think longer term. So it goes better for you because you have direction in your life. You know where you're headed. And yes, maybe plans need to be scrapped. Actually, they almost always need to be scrapped and redone, but at least you're always headed somewhere and thinking in terms of something farther out than just the right now, just the reaction. You're being more proactive. It also helps other people though, because when you have direction, it allows them to understand your direction, and it allows them to see how they fit into that direction and maybe help you out. So it gives them a sense of certainty, or like knowing what's next when you know what's next. And that can be very comforting and helpful to other people. Okay, the next one is where are you not prepared? What experiences are you missing out on or not enjoying because you're not prepared? So we had this winter storm in Texas. It rarely snows like this. And the first 2.5 days, I was just sitting inside, freezing cold, looking outside at the snow and thinking, wow, it looks so pretty out there. This doesn't happen that often. I wish I could go outside and enjoy it. If you guys are wondering why I look over there, it's because that's where my window is. But I was just looking out there and it's just like, it's so pretty, but I can't enjoy it. I can't even go outside because if I were to go outside, it'd be freezing cold out there. And then it's not like I'd be coming into a warm house. It'd be cold inside as well. So I would only get colder and then I would never warm up. So it's like we weren't prepared as a state. And so there is this beautiful experience that I couldn't really enjoy. I couldn't enjoy it all because we weren't prepared. So that's why the question is, what experiences are you missing out on or not enjoying because you're not prepared? So some examples. With regards to love, if you're not clear on what you're looking for in love or qualities you're looking for in a partner, you may end up continuously dating people who aren't fulfilling, or relationships where things don't work out because what you want and what they want just are misaligned, or what you want and how they can measure up to that just aren't aligned. Or you have a lot more issues in your relationship than there need to be because you're not clear on what you want. And you can't tell how somebody measures up to that or not, or you can't communicate that to them so that they can grow in that way and see if they want to measure up or not. Career. At work, are you getting, so an example for career, at work, are you getting the visibility that you need? Or maybe you're not preparing in advance for meetings so that you have something to contribute in the meetings. So you can say something and you can stand out and show visibility. Are you forgetting about your long-term goals for the year? So if you have career goals, or maybe your company has you set out goals for the year, training goals, quota goals, whatever it is, are you forgetting about those and not thinking about them long term? And so you kind of, every year at the end of the year, you kind of struggle, like, oh shoot, I need to do X number of hours of training or whatever. And this is a great time for you to revisit your goals because we're only 2 months into the year, so you've got 10 months left. So, if this is something for you, then definitely like think about it and see how you can stay more focused on your goals so you can enjoy your overall experience and enjoy your career growth and enjoy rewards at the end if you get like a Christmas bonus or something. If you're not preparing now, maybe you're missing out on things like that. And also, just side note, if you're interested in career advice, I do have a channel where I provide interviewing advice, but I also have a killer video on how to really stand out at work. Like seriously. So if you're interested in that, I can put it in the description box below. It's like really, really, really good. Really important. It's like all my secrets. All right. So for me, I realized that I have some personal inner work that I need to do that would help me engage even better in my relationship and really show up in ways for my fiance that are even better. So that's something that I want to work on. And that's a little bit more reactive because you don't always know where the clashes are going to be. And so you kind of react to them, they kind of surprise you. But now that I have a general idea, I can work on some things on myself to really lay the proper foundation going forward so that we just like build and build and build and just bring in more and more love year after year after year after year. From a societal level, we are not really taught we're not prepared or taught on how to handle conflict. So for that reason, we can't have healing discussions with each other. And that's why we're not really able to enjoy being a country that knows how to cooperate with each other, even if we have differing views. So that's something that on a societal level, we aren't prepared for. We aren't taught. And so we can't enjoy what it is to be a country, one family, because we don't really know how to handle our conflicts. The advice. Preparation is in the little things. So a lot of times we think about planning as something very long term or very strategic, but it's not always about having this elaborate strategic master plan with like a million different steps to it. A lot of times it's the things that are within us, again, as within, so without, within us that we can improve, that then set the foundation for essentially the energy to be set in positive ways going forward. So whenever you're thinking about your long-term planning, maybe it is physical things that you need to take care of. Maybe it's energetic things. Like for me, again, it's like inner work that I need to do that will set the energetic foundation for things to go more smoothly going forward and for us to have more and more love in our relationship. So think about things from an internal perspective, from an energetic perspective first, because that is going to be what is the grease on the wheels. That's truly where a lot of the long-term planning is. It's in the energy, because when you align internally in really good, positive ways, then everything that you start attracting along the ways is smoother, it's better, it's more productive, and it will get you to your goal just like versus like stuck, obstacle. Okay, do I go around? Do I go over? What do I do? Stuck, Okay, next one. So I think we are on number 4. Yeah. Number 4. So as I talked about earlier in this video, Senator Ted Cruz went to Cancun in the middle of the storm. So the question around this is, where are you not focusing on your or others' needs? Where in your life are you avoiding the real issues, right? Because he ran from the issues instead of trying to resolve them. So where might you in your life be avoiding the real issues in your life? So some examples. In love, are you maybe focusing on the issues of the relationship instead of maybe focusing on the inner work? So maybe self-worth or confidence or shadows are coming into play that are having certain relationship issues or patterns come about. So maybe that is a real issue that's actually going on. For career, do you feel stuck due to your colleagues or a boss or other departments maybe getting in the way? Or maybe it's the real issue of speaking up, Maybe you're not ready to set boundaries with your colleagues or set boundaries with your boss or push other departments to do their part so that you can do your part. So maybe the real underlying issue isn't so much them, maybe it's that you're not able to speak up. Now, I just want to say here, no judgment on any of this because some of these examples are coming from things that I've worked on in the past. So, like when I say these, don't like feel like I'm judging you or being like, oh, it's your fault. I've worked on a lot of these things in myself as well. And I'm life is so much better because of that. So no judgment. Okay, so for me right now, this actually was more of a realization for me rather than something that like I need to work on at this point in time. But it was like, but I mean, I guess you could say that I need to work on it because it was a realization that I came about when I was asking this question. So what is the real issue? Where am I avoiding the real issue? So the realization that I came to is that whenever there's an issue, whether it's between you and one other person or you and a bunch of other people, a lot of times we think that the issue is between the two of you or between you and those people. We forget or we don't realize that often there is a third party external factor that actually is really creating the issue that you think is between you and the other person. So external factors can be something tangible. It could be like another person, or it could be like a storm. So maybe, so for example, I had somebody at work call me on Wednesday when I finally got like data and voice and things like that. I actually had voice, but when I was finally able to like pick up the phone over Teams. And so they called me and they're like, "Hey, did you hear back from this person?" And I was just like, "Oh no, like I haven't had power and heat or Wi-Fi or data for the past couple of days, and they also live in Texas, so I don't think that they have either. We just haven't happened." And he was like, "Oh no, like I can't believe I'm so inconsiderate," right? But if he didn't know about the storm, he would have been like, "Well, why haven't you? Why haven't they?" But there was an external factor that is what contributed to what could have been an issue had he not known about the storm or had I not expressed that. Had I not been like, well, I don't have power, he would have been like, well, why didn't you do it? So it can be something tangible. An external factor can be something tangible like a storm or another person or something else happening, maybe a death in the family that's causing somebody to be very vacant or distant or something like that. Or maybe somebody is very disgruntled in their job because they have a very overbearing boss. And so you can relate to them more and understand like, okay, it's not between us, there's an external factor that if maybe we resolve that external factor, we can come to a resolution here. Or maybe if we like include that external factor, we can find a solution that works for the two of us and not blame it on something going on between the two of us. External factors can also be intangible. So it can be maybe a mindset that somebody has that they're holding on to that's creating an issue. And that mindset comes from a previous experience that they had where they feel like they need to protect themselves. Maybe you're working with like a business coach or something and they have a contract that they want you to sign and it has all these contingencies that you're just like, why am I signing all this? Some of this doesn't make sense. But you're not able to find resolution with that business coach. You're like, no, you have to sign it. I need it. But they're not explaining why. And so it feels like you're just butting up against each other and there's no reason for it and they're just trying to be difficult with you. When in reality, maybe it's because they've been burned by like 10 people. And so they just want to put that in there so they don't keep getting burned. So when you understand that, you can have a little bit more empathy and sympathy for what's going on. So that's the realization that I came to is there's always this external factor in any kind of conflict that a lot of times doesn't get expressed. But if we can talk about that, if we can bring that external factor into the picture, that's where the solutions really are. All right. Yeah, so it's not the annoyance that I sometimes experience that is the issue, or the person that I think is causing the annoyance. A lot of times it's the factors around the annoyance that are the real issue. So from a societal perspective, the place where we're really avoiding an issue is the mistrust of the self. So we see a lot of mistrust of the media. We see a lot of people buying into conspiracy theories because they mistrust politicians, etc. And conspiracy theories and that really starting to get out of hand. It has a lot of factors to it, and I actually plan to do a video on that. I've talked a little bit about it, but I have, I guess, a few more things to say on it. I'd like to do it in a healing format, but yeah, there's more to it than that, but a lot of it is a mistrust. So people think that they mistrust the media or they feel like they mistrust scientists. but really they mistrust themselves. They feel like they've been duped, and so they don't want that to happen again because they don't know if they can handle being duped, or they don't know if they can really trust themselves to believe in a source that maybe has lied to them. So there's a lot of mistrust of the self that's actually going on. It's a big part of it. So the advice: there's always something more than what is seen or first thought. So essentially what I was saying before is there's always something else. When there's an issue, there's always more than what you see between the two of you or on the surface. And it's really important to not get distracted by what's going on the surface and to really focus on what is truly what. What really is that external factor that we need to be including? How can we figure out what the external factor is? How can we talk about it? How can we bring it to light so that then we can actually resolve what's really going on, and because otherwise we are avoiding the real issue because the external factor is the real issue. Yes, so you can't find the solution until you understand what is really that real issue, and that comes from understanding that there's more than what we think is going on. We got to find out what that more is. Okay, so the final one. So as I mentioned earlier, there was a lot of blame being put on the windmills freezing over and AOC's Green New Deal. None of that makes any sense. None of that applies in reality. But the question or the healing, so there was a lot of scapegoats that were not true scapegoats. So the question is, what scapegoats are showing up in your life? Or where do you put misplaced blame on others? And or where do others put misplaced blame on you? So an example, for love, if you express yourself to somebody that you're interested in, a partner that you're in a relationship with, or somebody that is a specific person that you really like, that maybe is leading you on, or an ex that you want to bring back into your life, when you express yourself to them and you're honest about your feelings or how you feel like you're being treated, do they blame you for making them feel bad? So that's them scapegoating the situation back onto you. So that could be one that's going on. For career, do you feel like your projects are stuck due to other people? Are you maybe blaming other people for why your projects or your ideas aren't getting accepted? Or are there different approaches that you could use to get your point across? So I learned this one, almost 10 years ago. I had an idea on how to reduce a lot of so I worked in procurement at the time, and all of a sudden people wanted us to start entering and creating purchase orders. Instead of the internal client creating purchase orders, they wanted procurement to start doing that. Procurement can be a little bit conceited as a department sometimes, at least at that company. Yeah, I'm going to say at least at that company because I've also met, as a salesperson, I've worked with a lot of procurement people at different companies, and a lot of them are actually really nice and not super conceited. So anyways, we'll just attribute it to that company. So yeah, they were pretty conceited, and they didn't want to do that. And I do understand it. The procurement, they really try hard not to be seen as the paper pushers. So anyway, they didn't want to do it. So I realized that this was an issue within the group. And I ended up happening upon a solution for it, where we had a like a portion of our company that was up in like Utah or something, and they did this kind of work for other members of your company. So I was like, oh man, like, is something that you would want to do for us? They're like, yes, 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 please give us more work. So I found a solution for that. I mentioned it to my director, and I mentioned it a few times. And he was like, okay, that sounds great, but nothing ever came of that. I was like, oh, should we meet on this? He's like, oh, no, I don't know. Like, nothing ever came of it. So finally, I was like, at first I felt like, oh, my idea keeps getting rejected. This is really important. Like, why aren't they doing anything about it? And then I realized, you know what? Maybe I should try a different approach. Maybe the verbal talking about it isn't enough for him to really understand the importance of this. So what I did was I created a full-on business case, a full deck of slides that basically explained the whole scenario, what was going on, what's the impact on people's hours and morality, etc. How can we improve things? What are the recommendations? How can we do this? What are the exact steps? I sent that to him, and guess what? He got right on it, and we actually built that out together. And I wasn't there for the conclusion of it all, but I was the one that really drove that. And I think that they truly implemented it. It was about like 90% done when I left. So the approach was actually what needed to happen. But at first, I was blaming my idea not being good enough or the director not listening. So Where maybe is the blame being misplaced? Okay, so on a societal level, um, right now we have a lot of political parties blaming each other. By a lot, I mean two. And they're not focusing on like what is the third external factor. So that's kind of part of the last one, but they're not focusing on the external factor, not really focusing on the real issue. And they're being very, very general about it and using a lot of scapegoats as a result. All right, so the advice is, it's gonna be interesting. Blame the self because that is the only way to fix things. So essentially what you want to do is you want to look at your part of things. Because if we all just focus on ourselves, if we focus on our part, how we want to grow, if we focus on what we want instead, the blame goes away. Because now we're focusing on us. Okay, what is my part? What do I want to be different? What can I do? How can I try something different? Me, 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 me. So this is where we can be a little bit more self-centered and self-focused. This is where reflection is the best place to be self-centered if you're going to be self-centered. Because when that happens, when we focus on ourselves, the blame goes away. And when that happens, solutions can arise. The inner growth happens. We start gaining a maturity and a perspective that allows us to see solutions when they rise and go after that instead of scapegoating. And that is when actual cooperation can actually exist, is when we do that work, look at our shadows, see how we can do things differently. When we all do that, and when we focus on the external factor, that whole combination is when cooperation can actually happen. Now, I think it'll take a very long time for that to happen. Yeah, but if we all do our shadow work, it can be a lot sooner. So that's what I have to share with you today. I know this video is getting pretty long. Okay, not as long as I thought it was going to be. It's only been 46 minutes. Only 46 minutes. I hope this was fun. Let me know what insights came out of you from this. If you want to share, sharing your own personal shadows is kind of like, you know, sometimes you don't want to share it. And so if you guys feel like that's too long, please let me know because I will remove my sharing that part. But if it is helpful for you, then I will share my shadows because I know that I like to see that from other people. But also the video is like 46 minutes long, so it's long. So I also understand that. So just let me know what you think if you got this far. Um, yeah, and share anything that you would like to share, any realizations that you have, any kind of inspiration or ideas that maybe got sparked from anything that was talked about in this video. If you have been in Texas, let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you're able to keep warm. Let me know if you got your power back. Let me know how you feel about all the politics if you want to. And yeah, I hope this was interesting to see like how I kind of do some of my shadow work and how I try to grow and hopefully you incorporate it in yours. And I love that it incorporates so many different fun elements of journaling and shadow work and like tea if you want to read tea leaves or tarot. For me, I do like intuitive guidance, but if I'm getting stuck or I want additional perspectives, I will eventually, not eventually, I will sometimes pull tarot. So yeah. All right, so I'll leave you guys here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.